Right, you join me today at Larford Lakes on the Match Lake, and I'm here practicing for the Golden Reel final. So I thought it'd be a good idea to pass on some of my top tips on how to suss out a venue and get a reading for how to get a good weight in matches and compete in the open matches or practice for a big event like what I'm practicing for today. The value of practicing is about saving time in the actual match itself, getting a good reading for what baits work best, what fish you're fishing for at certain times of the day. We all know carp windows. The word carp windows is very important. There's certain times in a match where carp F1s feed most confidently. The better the venue, the more consistent you're going to catch through the match. So if you go practicing and sort out the methods that work consistently well, then you're going to catch more fish and get a better result in the match itself. Extremely important when it comes to homework. It's about finding information out regarding the most consistent methods. What areas of the lake produce the best? Getting a general reading for what you're expecting, whether it's the fish that you're fishing for, the areas where you want to actually draw, but also the methods and techniques that consistently do well on a regular basis. Pleasure fishing. When you're practicing, to me, pleasure fishing, you can sort out the basics. You can sort out what rigs you want, what elastics you're going to be using. When it comes to feeding patterns, that's different, because when you go pleasure fishing, you're seen to catch on everything that works, that you use. Whereas in match conditions, everything changes. The fish feed differently and at different times in the match. So you get a good gauge and a good reading on your swim management. That's what swims you're going to feed, what you're actually going to feed, and how you're going to feed them. So pleasure fishing to get a general idea of the venue, match fishing to get a more in-depth idea of how to approach it in match conditions. To me, the most consistent approaches on commercials are method feeder, margin, and short. Over the duration of the spring/summer months, they catch fish on nearly every commercial. So to me, down the margins, short pole, method feeder and shallow fishing are the main things I concentrate on. It's really important to be open-minded when you're practicing for a venue. Not just go with how you want to catch the fish, but more importantly, sort out techniques on how the fish want to be caught. So if it's a method that you're not entirely confident in, go and practice it, because being a better angler is about being efficient at a variety of approaches. And if you're minimising your approaches, you're minimising the potential of you actually producing a match-winning weight. Extremely important timing in swim management. It's all about understanding what times of the day you want to be on a specific line. As a general rule, start short, work your way out. There's always few fish to be caught early on in the day on your short lines, i.e. on the short pole. And then understanding when it's time to move, go further out, and as the day progresses and the fish gain confidence, they start coming back down the margins on your short line looking for food. So swim management is extremely important about it in order to make the most of those critical times when you know that there's fish willing to feed in a specific area of your peg. Without doubt, depth is the most important part when it comes to commercial fishing. I suppose it's all a case of understanding that nearly every species wants to feed in shallower water where the water temperature is warmer. That means the fish metabolism works quicker, they can digest the food quicker and carry on eating. So this is why the most consistent approaches on commercials are margin fishing, shallow fishing, method feeder up to an island, pellet waggler. All these approaches catch consistent winning weights on every commercial throughout the country. So depth is really important. Fishing in the correct depth of water, whether it's the margin, your short pole, what depth to fish at when you're shallow on the long pole, are all key factors to gaining consistently good weights on commercials. It's all about getting a good reading. And to get a good reading, you've got to fish throughout the whole of the day, preferably in match times, and understand, aye, we've got a fish on. There we go. And understand what you've learnt from that day, how you've fed your swim, what time they've actually decided to feed on that particular line, whether it's what time they've come down the margins. But that is by fishing throughout the day, and fishing in match times gives you a good understanding of what to expect in match conditions and what weight you're fishing for. Right, the match is just finished, and to be honest with you, I'm quite happy with how the day's gone. I've learnt an awful lot, and like what I said this morning, I'm going to keep things simple: short pole, hard pellet, method feeder, bomb and pellet, and down the margins, and it's gone quite well. I suppose I've learnt more with it being in match conditions than I would have done when I was pleasure fishing, because the fish are reluctant to feed as confident when there's anglers around you, and that's the main thing about today. I've learnt an awful lot. So roll on the final.